It's getting spicy. We're back with an episode 2 review. In this episode, the heat. Oh my God. I think everything just escalated. We start the episode with Barry just like, he does not want peace, he wants problems. I think most of it is just banter. Barry's just trying to change the mood. It's not that serious coming from him. But, you know, he's ruffling a few feathers. I think at the start of the episode, him and Xyzelle have a bit of back and forth. It was based on who went home last week. And yeah, Barry was like, no, lillie-jo had more to offer and I don't see it for Xyzelle. He was gunning for her a little bit. Also, something that I think triggered the rest of his episode was Dylan being highlighted again. Being called the front runner on episode 1, that's added a lot of pressure for Dylan. He needs to kind of match what he's given that very first performance every task, every episode, every week. And that has gotten to him, I think, in this episode. This episode saw the group being split into tasks. English. This task saw the contestants being split into groups. They had to do a performance where they got a chance to perform at the O2. I mean, that's a big deal. Even if it's just for like 2 seconds without a crowd, that's major. Before they head over to kind of get familiar with their songs, Becky was like, don't up my songs, Becky. So Xyzelle and Dylan were made captains for each group and they made a selection. It was interesting. Some of the choices I think were made on who were the strongest competitors, but a lot of them went through some friendship circles. So I think you were selecting your friends rather than people you think would be great together. With Xyzelle group being the ones that were more performers and Dylan's group being mainly the strongest vocalists. But the drama continued, even in that choice making with any competition. That's what we're looking for. Mia was kind of irritated that Dylan hadn't chosen her. Mildly. I don't think she was like gonna punch a wall. And when Barry said it feels like being the last one chosen at school, in the fields, shout outs to fat guys, because the struggle is real. Like, pick us first sometimes, you know, change it up. Like, let's get crazy, you know, pick the fat guy first. It was quite nice to see him be a little bit more vulnerable and also kind of sharing his experience a little bit more. This episode, they did start to do that with some of the confessionals. We're really now kind of listening to who they are as people, as well as being the performers and what their musical journey has been. But yeah, it was just interesting to see him kind of, you know, let slip some of that tough exterior. Actually, before we move on, somebody shaded S Club 7 and I'm like, what? What the f? It's Club 7, legends. Who else taught you how to reach for the stars? We cut into a cool clip of Emelle and Xyzelle's confessionals talking about each group. Emelle kind of said Xyzelle's group was a bit more focused on the looks and the performance, on how things were visually and probably less on the creative side. But Xyzelle, just, you know, she clapped back. She was like, nah. Not today, Satan. He said it's about star quality, which can't be taught. When you kind of think about it, it's kind of sad because I'm like, episode 1, didn't I say I didn't have star quality?
So I think star quality is just something you really need to showcase when you're auditioning for a show like this. And perhaps I didn't do that.
Both were fair points. Again, being on stage, you have to do more than just singing. It's a performance, it's a show. I mean, it can be stories, and that doesn't actually mean that you need to do a backflip or need to wear something super outrageous. You look at Adele, I think obviously through her music is fantastic and she does the storytelling through music. If you've been or look at any of her live concerts, she gives you a story, she gives you a journey, she gives you laughter, she gives you emotions, she kind of engages with the audience. So I think there is different ways of performing. Obviously a traditional performer is somebody who would be able to dance, move across stage. Like Michael Jackson, he's delivering vocals. Can I mention him? We have many celebrities like Beyonce, you know, dancing, performing, singing, working with sets and costumes. So I think there's a lot more to it, but both made fair points. Let's just take a little bit of pause here. You know, I feel like my reviews are so accurate because I was saying everything before the judges were saying, or before the contestants were saying a point. I was like, either I'm psychic, I'm just the best reviewer, I'm just saying. I kept feeling, and I mentioned this a little bit in episode 1, and it's come out this episode, but Frank was just gunning for Charlie a little bit. They called Charlie the weak link. Just don't think he's just been given the right opportunity? Like, look, let's just take a pause. If we really consider this whole show about finding an icon, finding somebody who is a great performer, great artist, etc., most of these scenarios do not exist. Yes, in the reality of things, you are competing against other artists in the charts, for example, but you're not put in a situation where you're just suddenly thrown into a group and you have to start saying, I want this part, I want that part. And also, not everybody fights like that. If this is your fighting chance in a competition, I just don't think this is the kind of task that really helps somebody who maybe isn't as like vocal in saying, okay, now fuck you, I want this bit. And so it just didn't really make sense that they kept saying he's the weakest link, and he got really frustrated towards the end. Like, he was like, Frank, suck. I don't know, he didn't say that. No, Frank, sorry, I don't know you. But having said that, you know, there is lots of a competition where you are going to be tested and pushed to your limits. Maybe that's the kind of idea behind it. I just don't think they've given him enough chance to shine. A lot of the things Charlie has been criticised for are based on song choice. Confidence, which, yes, you're looking for an icon, blah, blah, blah. This isn't really any kind of like shade to any of the contestants. No one is ready to be in a position where they're like, yes, that's who I am, and I'm gonna just be somebody who just straight at the bat is gonna be an icon, who's gonna sell out stadiums. Hopefully all of them, but just that's not the reality of this competition. And competition like this is about progress, is about learning. I just feel like because you're gunning for somebody, it also puts a damper on your mood. I'm gonna get a bit deep here. You know, like when someone goes through their life just being criticised consistently, you start to kind of have low self-esteem, you downplay everything you do, and I don't think that's healthy in a competition like this to keep mentioning, I think you're the weakest link, or you aren't the strongest competitor, or everyone's kind of levels above you. Because if you thought that, you shouldn't have got him on the show. Yes, you can give feedback, make it constructive. Telling someone's the weakest link is not constructive, but maybe you're the weakest link because X, Y, and Z may be more useful, but also the weakest link doesn't need to be mentioned. So yeah, again, I'm Team Charlie, I'm Team Underdog. So when the groups were performing Xyzelle's, I mean, give her anything, but she's funny. She said she felt she was her and the group was her. You know what? This is also based on that, just the point about Charlie. Xyzelle's reacted in a different way. Charlie's kind of fallen back because he's been criticised so much that it feels like you're not going to win. If somebody's gunning for you, you're like, well, I'm not going to convince them otherwise. For Xyzelle, it's the opposite. It's just like, every time you keep coming at me, I'm just going to be in your face. I'm going to say the most outrageous things. I'm going to prove you wrong, sort of thing. So, two different routes. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I need to be a judge. I was looking back on my notes, and the first thing I mentioned, there's a clip where they're doing a rehearsal. It doesn't sound great, like they're all over the place, but Nnenna's voice really stood out. Like, her tone was amazing and was really strong. In episode 1, I said she has a great voice, but this time she really stood out. Skipping a little bit ahead, in the actual task when they were performing on stage in front of the judges, she nailed it. So they reach the O2 and they're on stage, they're performing in front of the 3 judges. They're sneaky. What they did teach you is don't trust anyone, because they took out their in-ears. Now, for anyone watching, in-ears is one of those things that artists put in their ear, and they can hear the sort of the sound levels and their vocals, amongst other things. They cut that out completely just to test them. One group performed better, the other group didn't. On stage, Team Xyzelle proved that performance was on the forefront of what they were bringing to the table. They had choreography, they had staging. Xyzelle did a little turn, very much focused on how something would look in a stadium, which is probably what concert goers would want to see, right? If you're in the O2, it's a big space, you'd want to see an artist do some stair choreography. Now, when it comes to the overall performance, the people that really stood out to me were Barry, actually, and Mia. Their vocals were, Mia, like the top runner, I know I've already mentioned Okeem's my favourite. Should I say this in the reviews? Mia's definitely one of my favourites. Her voice is incredible. She's got a really powerful, soulful voice. And I think also for the type of music that I'd expect at the big weekend would be the type of music that I could see Mia do. If somebody had to win the task, it definitely was Mia for me. But Barry also, because he had a really cool tone again. The weaker performance again came from Team Xyzelle, but it got a little bit spicy. Basically, Okeem had forgotten his lines. Xyzelle tried to cover, but then fumbled her own lyrics. So she felt some type of way. When it comes to this scenario, I'm sure there's going to be difference in opinion. It did feel like someone throwing someone under the bus, and I think Emelle mentioned it feeling like if you're going to be a team player, this is not the kind of thing that you would do. Reality is, Xyzelle probably would still have been in the bottom 3, even if she hadn't forgotten her lyrics, just because of the other performances were stronger. But I also understand that like she covered someone else because she was being a team player, but then it backfired. So she's kind of like, wait, hold on. Like I was actually being a team player, but now I have to call someone out, and not for the fact that I'm calling that specific person out, but just the scenario. I don't think it's like Okeem's shit and I'm better than him. I don't think she was doing that. It was more, I fumbled and I want to give you a reason for why it didn't quite work. So I see the contestants on live now, so I don't think there's any bad blood, but definitely could see as the competition goes, shit's heating up. Final 3, Charlie, Xyzelle, and Okeem. Okeem wasn't originally going to be part of it, but they called him out, brought him back in because Xyzelle had made those comments. Now, let's get into this. Spoiler alert, Xyzelle and Charlie were sent home. Okeem is just like, he shouldn't have been in bottom 3, in my opinion. Yes, he forgot the lyrics, but I'm so bad at lyrics too. Like, it's hard to remember. It's just a lot of words, you know, and sometimes you can kind of play it off. And I felt like he did. He, you know, gave some ad-libs and kind of moved on to the next line. So he is the best vocalist in the competition. Like, there's no debate. When he did Labyrinth Jealous, first of all, that song is go stream. You know, Labyrinth, you did something there. Such a good song. It's such an emotional song. Vocally, there's a key change, there's some extended notes. Okeem nailed it, made it his own, add some of his runs and trills, changed some of the notes. Honestly, he is such a good vocalist. Not praised enough. And I know the judge said like, oh wow, blah, 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 but like, I think everything he's done vocally should have been praising because he is honestly the best vocalist in the competition. I think also the other contestants know this. He is one of the strongest at least. So he wasn't going to go home anyway, which is why I thought the fumbling of lyrics and being called out for it probably wasn't going to do anything. Xyzelle, I think, unfortunately, the time was to go home because she had been consistently in the bottom, been called out, and kind of like with the task, with the TikToks from last week, she was in the bottom. I don't think she could fight the judges over, you know, I should be here, etc. because it had been like a few things now. Xyzelle chose to sing Georgia Smith. Last week, I mentioned she wanted to, in my opinion, again, like, I'm acting like I know what they were doing. I don't. I thought she sang Rather Go Blind, I think it was, because she wanted to prove that she's a strong vocalist. So she thought, I've done more performance stuff, let me show you I'm also a vocalist. This time around, she chose Georgia Smith. I think to share vocals, but for me, it would have made more sense if she did something that was hugely like bang. What she has that the other competitors maybe don't have as much of is that star quality, and I think that's what she should have done. You have to put your best foot forward. Yes, it's about the total package and you've got to try and do everything else. If I was her, I probably would have gone for a song that was a bit more performance-based, you know, gave them entertainment. She should have sang Jay's song, Rice, Peas and Chicken. Just something that was more entertaining. Also, congrats to Jay, because I know he's just reached over 1,000 streams for that song, you know, and that is utilizing a platform. Alongside Xyzelle, Charlie was sent home. And also Emelle and Charlie. I love it in 1 week. Random mix of people, but you know what? Happy for you guys. Don't know if they're still together post the show, but sweet. Charlie sang Into You by Ariana Grande. Again, didn't do a terrible job, but probably wouldn't be the song I chose. It did kind of sound like should have chosen a better song. You know, it is what it is, and we had to see Charlie and Xyzelle go home. So this series, like, they're just chopping people off. I think we'll be done very soon with the show. Glad to see Charlie and Xyzelle go. I think they both brought something different. Xyzelle was the entertainer, also the cause of a lot of drama. So I don't know what's going to happen next week. Who's going to bring it? Barry, of course. You know, The Voice has elements of a coach coming in and saying, try this doesn't work. I wish there were some parts of that. I know the judges kind of come during rehearsals, they give their feedback overall. As individuals, I wish they kind of like give them direct feedback of this is what you need to do. Entertaining episode, reviews coming out late, my bad. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show and the series. I'm hopefully interviewing one of the contestants soon. If you'd like to see more, please like, comment and share, you know, all that jazz. See you next time.